My name is Reijnen, and I am born and raised from the Northwest, originally Port Townsend, but spent most of my childhood on Bainbridge, where I learned to ride bikes with my dad and many other friends, and eventually made a lot of friends in Seattle and in the surrounding area that go to races with, and I have a lot of fond memories of that. The first memory I have of riding bikes would be my trike backyard in Port Townsend when I was probably nothing but a toddler. But the best memory I have, or one of the original real memories I have of riding a bike, is when my training wheels first came off of my Batman bike. And being from the Northwest, as you know, since the weather usually is less than ideal for riding bikes, I was in the garage, and the little two-car garage, and it had just enough room that I could ride in circles without my training wheels. And as soon as I figured out how to do it without the training wheels, I was down there for probably 3 hours riding in circles, and probably half a day every day for the rest of the week. Absolutely, that would have been the original Bad Boys of Bainbridge Island, and no, that was really where I first learned how to race bikes, and those guys got me into racing bikes, and took me over to the Stewart Park Crit Series over in Seattle, and that was kind of my first introduction to racing and the whole scene, and it was just a great group of guys, and I was really lucky to have that support and those friends show me the ropes. I originally started just going over those crit races, and then kind of moved on to regional races as time went on, and it involved a lot of carpooling, and I remember we had this Modest Mouse tape we'd listen to, and probably wore the thing out. We listened to it so much, driving back and forth from Seattle to Walla Walla, Washington, or Oregon, or Elkhorn was another race that was out there a bit, and but you'd have your group of buddies that you travel with, and usually the races were kind of a weekend long. There'd be 3 races over 2 days, and then you slowly make your way up through the categories. There's a ranking system, so as you get results, you get points, and once you accumulate enough points, you move up to the next category, and then you race against guys who are in that same category, and so it gets progressively harder, more difficult. And then I was lucky enough later on, once I was racing at the Cat 1 level, to get picked up by an amateur team that was based out of Arizona, actually, and they just picked up young kids around the country and that were doing well regionally, and helped them get to national calendar races, some of the bigger U.S. races. And then from there, it's just about getting seen by the bigger teams, having a result on the right day, and being fit at the right races. And eventually, if you do that, then a director will spot you and offer you a contract for the next year, and then you can work your way up through those ranks. And it's a ladder, and there's always more rungs to climb, that's for sure. I did a year at University of Washington racing out of the Northwest, and then a year with the national team in Europe, and then came this way to continue school and find some new training roads.
Were you successful in that?
Yeah, well, apparently they have these things here called hills, which I didn't know about. And I thought hills were maybe 3 to 4K long, and steep and difficult, but no more than 5 minutes of pain. And one of the first rides I did here, a group of friends took me out, and we climbed for 2.5 hours straight.
Oh my!
And I'm pretty sure there wasn't any oxygen up there, and I never forgot that day.
Wow!
Danny Van House is the director of Jelly Belly Cycling, and that's a great team. They're the longest sponsored U.S. team out there, and so Jelly Belly is a really neat sponsor, and it was a great team to start with because it's a team that's really oriented towards getting people involved in the sport, getting kids excited about the sport. It's a fun sponsor. It's a sponsor everybody knows, whether they know about cycling or not, and it's also a team that cared, a lot about the outreach and how we were involving ourselves in the community, not just about the results we got on the road. And I think that's something that a lot of the big teams these days miss, especially in Europe. And so that was a really neat place to start. And Danny was kind enough to take a risk on me, and it worked out for both of us, I think. And I did that original kind of half season with them as a stagiaire, and then two full seasons, and definitely enjoyed my time there. And I got introduced to some of the bigger races. I got to do Tour of Missouri and Tour of California, and then we started going to China as well, Asia, Tour of Thailand, Tour of South Korea, Tour of Qinghai Lakes, and so that was pretty eye-opening, and definitely my first kind of jump into the racing outside the country.
Well, and also stepping up progressively and getting to the podium in several of those events.
Yeah. The second year with Jelly, the second full year with Jelly Belly, we really meshed as a team, and it was amazing to me the difference. Every year you get a little bit stronger, but you're talking about 0.5%, and all of a sudden, just having a great group of guys around you, and everyone was just best of friends on the team, made all the difference in the world, and we sold out for each other 100%, and it showed with our results. It's one of those things where in professional sports it happens more often than I think a lot of people realize. Guys break collarbones and that kind of stuff, and that's an obvious fix and frustrating nonetheless. But a lot of guys get sick, and we're traveling so much and traveling to strange places and eating new foods, and all that's great. But when you're under the stresses of a 7-day stage race, it takes a toll, and it's not long before everybody experiences some kind of sickness. And I was unfortunate enough to have one that wouldn't give up the ghost for quite a while, and definitely ruined my 2011 season. But the Team Type 1 stood by me, and they had a lot of faith in me, and they were really patient while I worked through it. And in August of last year, I started to feel healthy again, and so I started training, and then got ready for Tour of Rwanda, which was the last race I did in 2011.
And you had pretty nice success out there.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a full season of pent-up frustration, not being able to race and train and do things I'm used to doing, and so I was able to put it all into one race, and we had a really great time over there, and what the team does over there is pretty profound. It was my first experience getting to see what a difference the team really makes in the lives of people with diabetes.
And why don't you go ahead and give us a little descriptor of exactly what Team Type 1 is all about?
Yeah, we have five of our athletes are Type 1 diabetics, and the Sanofi, our main sponsor, they manufacture a lot of the diabetic medications, the hormones, the insulin, and they've been really amazing with us in kind of giving us only one mission, which is to spread awareness about the disease. Diabetes is becoming an epidemic, and there's a question about that. But in the States, we get a little bit different perspective because we have the doctors who recognize it, the medicine to make it so that you can live a normal life. And a lot of countries don't have that. They're not screening for it. They're not recognizing it early enough, and kids are going blind or dying as a result. And that's pretty spooky. So it's the mission of the team to kind of go around the world and promote awareness and help instigate policies that make it easier for people to get the care they need.
Wow, that is absolutely phenomenal, terrific, and congratulations to both you and the team and the owners and the managers for making this a project that is so completely altruistic. That's fabulous.
Yeah, and Rwanda was a really unique opportunity that way too, because I got to see firsthand the difference that it does make. It's one thing to talk about it and make steps towards it, but in Rwanda, you're dealing with a much smaller population, and you have a lot more influence there, and so this is the Tour of Rwanda is a really big sporting event there. I think 1 out of every 3 people in the country came to watch, and so just huge numbers. And over there, when kids are diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, their friends just assume that they're going to to be disabled or not live a very long life. And after we raced there, all these kids were writing to the team saying, wow, I used to think that I was going to be dead by the time I was 20, and now all my friends think I'm going to be a professional athlete. And it's kind of striking to see the difference that it makes, just like that. And it's very profound, very powerful. And then also from a kind of, what's the right word, legislative side of things, Phil, when we do well over there, in a race like that, Phil and the other people involved with the organization are able to, go to health organizers in the country and say, this is what we need to do to change the policy. This is, what we need to be able to provide for kids who have diabetes, and then those changes actually get made. So it's not just about changing the mentality. It's also changing the ability of, these kids and individuals having access to the medications they need. In 2009, I was with Jelly Belly my last year. I was third at Nationals, and it was a result that I definitely wanted to improve upon. And then last year, having such a terrible year, and then now this year being back again, I think that this year was really great confirmation that I'm back to myself again, and that I'm capable of doing what I was before having a bad year. And it was another hot, humid day in Greenville, South Carolina, and this is the last year the race is down there on that course, and it happens to be a course that I really love. I'll be sad to see it move next year, but the stage was set. A lot of the really the best guys in the U.S. were coming off Tour of California, so a lot of really fit guys, and the tactics are always a bit confusing at Nationals. Some teams, like my team, had 3 guys. BMC had 3 guys, Liquid Gas had 2 guys, and then you have teams that have 12 or 13 guys.
Oh.
And so it makes for an unusual tactical race that way.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, an early break will roll away, and then the field will start to ride, and then eventually reel in the breakaway, and then the teams will set up their favorites for the finish. And but because it's so unpredictable, that's not the way it happened. And in the first local laps, a group of 10 got away, which I kind of thought would be the early move, but a couple of the head of state decided that was a dangerous move and put their heads down and chased it back. But during the chase, some splits happened. The field, gaps opened up, the field split, and there was about 28 of us left in the front group by the time we caught the break. And because a couple of teams were well represented, they started to work, and that was kind of the end of the day for the other guys in the field. So only having three teammates in the race, you really have to be careful to dish out your efforts very selectively, and to kind of play off some of the teams that have more representation. Mm. And I knew that that move of 28, I was the only one from our team there, and some teams had 5 or 6 riders. So from the get-go, I had to really watch everybody else and make sure that I was following their cues. And when Garmin took over, they started to pull initially, and because they had one of the sprint favorites, Tyler Farah, in that group, who's also a Washingtonian, actually. They were working for him, and that worked out great for me because I could just sit in there protected and wait to see how things unfolded. Mm. And unfortunately for Garmin, Tyler wasn't able to hold the pace on the climb the third time up, and so they lost that card. And then the group whittled down a fair bit. And at that point, the field was getting closer as well, so I had to play a card to make sure that group stayed away, because we were pretty far into the race at that point. I was committed to the move, and so I put in a few polls, and eventually the gap came out some more, and then another team that was well represented in the break decided that they were now recommitting, and so they took over the work again. And coming into the final time up the climb, it's always, pretty much everybody goes as hard as they can. And the heat and jet lag and all that, I wasn't having the best climbing day of my life. And so rather than trying to follow the top couple guys, I just rode my own pace up the climb and waited for a couple of guys that were near to me over the top. And we were able to work together to bring back those leaders. And it was really touch and go there in the finish. We didn't know if we were going to catch them in time or not. We ended up catching them with about 900 meters left in the race, which is about as close as you can cut it. It was definitely an exciting race, and there was times in that race where I thought, I don't know if this is going to work or not. And but you definitely have to take some risks in that race, and definitely in that scenario. And Timmy was already away. The winner, Timmy Duggan, was already away from the leaders with 20K to go. So by the time we caught the front group, Timmy was already 30 seconds up the road, and he was going to win regardless. So the fight was always going to be for second place, and Timmy was definitely a deserving winner that day. I mean, there was nobody stronger. And so our group it was basically a sprint out of our group for second and third. But the sprint was uphill, and so it really strung guys out, and it was a strongman's finish for sure.
And you have to be pleased with the third place finish in a national championship event.
Yeah, I mean, always the goal is to win, but on that day, Timmy was the stronger rider, and I can't argue with that. So I think finishing third there was a good result for me, and I'm definitely happy with it, and how I can look forward and maybe next year go for the top step. Well, the second half of the season really suits me more than the first half did. A lot of those races were better suited to some of my teammates, and so I was in more of a helper role, which is definitely fun. I enjoy that aspect of it too. But the second half of the season, we have a lot of high altitude climbing stage races, and starting with King High, which is a race I've done well at before, and so I'm looking to have a result there. And then I get to do my adopted hometown race in end of August, the USA Pro Cycling Challenge, which is going to have a stage finishing here in Boulder, and so I'm quite excited about that.
You bet.
I get to race in what is now my backyard, and then we'll finish up the season with probably a little block in Europe before we wind down for the off season. So hopefully when we have this conversation again, I'll have had some results in some of those high altitude stage races. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of staff that works with the team to keep us, at our best. Usually at the beginning of the season, we'll undergo some testing to see where our fitness is at, and if there's any issues, then we can work with the staff to resolve those. There's a team nutritionist who will help us anytime that we need it. But a lot of the time, we're kind of left to our own devices, and most of us have individual coaches outside the team that we work with. For the most part, guys are pretty self-sufficient, I would say. Yeah, I mean, if you're fit, you can go out and do a 5-hour ride at 4 watts per kilo, and come back and finish as strong as you started. Then that's a really good indication that you're where you need to be for the races. Yeah, I mean, that being said, the level of competition in the States is incredible now. It's nothing to shake a stick at. And do a really great schedule being based in the U.S. now, and guys from Europe are coming over here to race. But culturally, I think it's really different, and honestly, I prefer kind of some of the things that come along with being a racer in the States. I've built some really great relationships and friendships through the sport, and that's stuff that I'll get to continue to have regardless of whether I'm racing professionally or not.
We look forward to watching you continue your successful charge at the podium.
Great, thanks so much.